I want to thank you for watching our County Council District 6 forum with candidates Jessica Coker and Steve Wunder. We are so excited that the two of them are here with us. I think that both of them are excited that they've emerged from the runoff in order to take part in today's discussion. And really, that's what it is. This isn't a debate. It's not a gotcha type thing. This is all about educating the voters of District 6 around these two candidates. And it's important to point out too that there are actually three candidates right now, and we'll explain that in a minute. But let me first of all introduce the two candidates. We have Republican Jessica Coker, a certified public accountant who lives in Roebuck, and then we have Steve Wunder, a Republican, a licensed commercial real estate broker out of Duncan. They were the top two vote getters in the County Council District 6 seat election. And then they are running in a runoff on February 2nd. I'm going to say this, turnout for the first race was not very good. About 40,000 registered voters, I think 700 or so voted. We need to do better than that, District 6. So February 2nd, runoff, Republican primary runoff, and then the winner, I mentioned three candidates, the winner will face Democrat Lakeisha Whitner on March 23rd. So 2 dates, February 2nd, March 23rd. So y'all didn't hear me, y'all didn't log on to hear me ramble on and on about the race. You want to hear from the candidates. And to help us learn a little bit about each of the people you see on your screen, we have Linda Hannon. Linda is with Duke Energy. She is our Vice Chair of Government Relations, and she is going to moderate today's discussion. So Linda, thank you so much for agreeing to do this, and thank you really for the time that you commit to our organization.
Thank you, Alan. And let me welcome not only our candidates, but everyone that is watching today. As Alan said, this is an opportunity to get to know these two candidates. And we appreciate you taking the time to join us and learn about these two folks. As Alan said, this is a discussion, a forum. It is not a debate. We will ask both Jessica and Steve to be respectful and civil as we go through the questions. The conversation is on Facebook Live, also Zoom, and it is being recorded, and it will be placed on One Spartanburg Inc. Following the discussion today. Prior to the call starting, the candidates drew numbers to determine the speaking order for both the opening comments and the closing comments. Steve is going to be the first to start us off with opening comments, and then as we close, Jessica will start us off with the closing comments. The opening comments will be up to 3 minutes each, and the closing comments will be up to 2 minutes. In between the opening and the closing comments, I will be asking the candidates questions, and I will go in an alternating format. So Jessica perhaps will be answering the first question first, and then Steve will answer the second question first. Again, we appreciate you joining us. And when we drew numbers, Steve was picked to open us up with the opening comments. So I'm going to turn it over to Steve Wunder.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And thank you to One Spartanburg and everybody that's supporting this, because as Linda said, it's been a tough turnout, and we all really want the greater audience to really participate in the process of electing its officials. So I'd like to start out with just saying, we're really blessed to be here in Spartanburg at this point. Obviously we're growing and prospering in many, many ways. However, we're in a challenging time right now because of COVID. And obviously COVID is the center of our universe right this time, but we'll get over it in not too distant future, thankfully. But it's still going to be a challenge for the next several months. And my desire to get into the process of being a member of county council was to look beyond COVID and see how we as a community can continue to prosper, because we are very blessed to be prospering. And so with that, that's why I wanted to really spend a little more time talking about the opportunities ahead of us, but the challenges, because with this growth that we've had, the businesses are going to continue to come to Spartanburg in many, many positive ways. And the contributing factors include a great economic environment, attractiveness to business, quality of life, affordable cost of living, as well as the educational system that we have here in Spartanburg, both at the K through 12, as well as on up to the secondary and post primary schools. So we're really in a very fortunate position. But with growth, it brings challenges. And as we all know, I think in this community, the challenges are because of the population that we're seeing. I think that's the thing that we all see almost on a daily basis, because of the amount of new construction on both houses, apartments, businesses. And so with that, the business community is going to continue to thrive. But one of the challenges of how do you address growth, even though it's a challenge, it's a positive challenge. And I think because of my years of experience in business, my community engagement over the years, and many different aspects of the community, plus my leadership skills from my previous experience in the Army, as well as a graduate of West Point, I feel very comfortable in an environment to help formulate and support and guide the teams that we need and will need and continue to need to address these challenges. And so that's the compelling reason why I felt it was very important to think about participating in this endeavor, which is to become a member of county council. So thank you very much, and look forward to the questions.
Thank you, Steve. And at this time, I will turn it over to Jessica for your opening comments.
Thank you, Ms. Linda. That was great, Steve. My name is Jessica Coker, and I do feel called to represent Spartanburg District 6 on County Council. Both my husband and I were born and raised in Spartanburg, so we've grown up in this community and watched it grow. We're both graduates of Dorman High School. I've earned a bachelor's of accounting from Clemson University. I also have a master's of taxation from Clemson. We now live in Roebuck with he just turned 4, our 4-year-old son, and a newborn daughter. We're excited to have her. She's quite a blessing. Both my husband and I are small business owners. I am a CPA. My mother and I have a firm downtown Spartanburg, and we specialize in small businesses, helping small businesses grow. We've really seen small businesses struggle this year. And I've made it my mission to help our small business clients, whether that be federal, state, or even local grant financial aid opportunities, including the Community Works opportunity that the Chamber has done, and we commend them for that. Our client base extends from those that are struggling to make ends meet to millionaires. And so my experience has really given me a unique perspective. I can look at issues from a taxing agency point of view and a taxpayer's point of view. I can look at it from a business owner and an employee. I can look at it from blue collar to white collar. But above all that, I want to listen to the community. I want to be a voice for all. I want to ask the right questions. I want to provide accountability. My unique background makes me the right candidate for that job. On county council, I want to focus on 3 things. Of course, small businesses and jobs, that's super important. The other is fiscal responsibility, and the last is education. With small businesses and jobs, I know how important small businesses are to our economy. I want to continue to advocate for small businesses and make sure that they have the resources to get past this COVID time and thrive in the future. Second, I wanted to make sure fiscal responsibility. So my unique skills as a CPA makes me a champion for fiscal responsibility. I preach every day to my clients how to be responsible with their money, and government needs to do the same. I want to explore inefficiencies. I want to cut waste. I want to make sure that we utilize technology efficiently so that we can do more with less. Lastly, education. So I know snow days are a thing of the past, right? But what else is going to change? What else do we need to be looking for in the future? I think that the Spartanburg academic movement has a good thing going where we as a community in government, in nonprofit, in education need to work together to make sure that our kids have the resources they need to succeed. So I'm very passionate about our community, and I think I can do some great work on county council. So thank you, Chamber, for having this, and I look forward to the questions.
Thank you, Jessica. We appreciate the opening comments from both candidates. We'll now go into the questions. And again, they will be alternating, and you will each have 2 minutes to respond. Jessica, because Steve started us off with the opening comments, you will start us off with the first question. Some of which you addressed in your opening comments, but the first question is a very broad one, just to get us started. What is, in your mind, the #1 issue facing Spartanburg County, and what are your plans to influence that issue?
Okay, so my biggest concern as a taxpayer is that our county courthouse, one of the biggest project behind the new Spartanburg High School, the most costly for our community. It's a very, very big project, and I want to make sure that that project stays on schedule and on budget. Right now, we're 6 months behind schedule. I've been assured that we're on budget, so I'm excited about that. I want to make sure that we don't get any further behind. Spartan High went over budget about $11 million, and that was a concern for me. One of the reasons why I really think that a CPA needs to be on council, somebody who has very specific financial skills to be able to project costs and look to the future. I'm also worried about having to raise taxes to finish it. That cannot be an option, and I want to make sure that we make that project happen on schedule and on budget.
Thank you, Jessica. And Steve, I will reread the question. I think you addressed your priorities in your opening comments as well. But the question is, what is the #1 issue facing Spartanburg County, and what are your plans to influence that issue?
Well, I think the thing that we all see is the growth, and the growth is very phenomenal, but with growth, the challenge of how do you facilitate the growth? Obviously, it will continue to put a lot of strain on our already existing infrastructure, be it roads. Obviously, the council has already started to address with the city the infrastructure needed to support all the services vis-a-vis the new complex for the city and the county. I understand, based on the information that the county council is providing us, is that the budget is well intact, and the fact that the revenue to support that is well intact. As a matter of fact, it's ahead of schedule, even with the COVID. So really my focus is to work on the solutions and/or to bring together a collaboration of all the stakeholders that support growth. For instance, when we look at growth in any particular part of the county, how does it interface with the school system? Because obviously, as the population and community grows, schools have to grow. But the schools obviously have their own autonomous responsibility. And so therefore, it's how do we collaborate between the school system? Not to say that collaboration doesn't exist today, but we're hitting a next phase. The exponential growth is just beyond what we've ever seen in a very, very good way. So it's really, how do you put together the teams, whether it be the Spartanburg Sewer, to, like they said, the school system, to the utilities like yourself, Linda, to working with the state DOT, because a lot of the interface that we face with these roads and the improvements. Now, county council started the process. As a matter of fact, they're working on budgets now to improve the amount of funds that they're going to put to roads. But I think that's really, in a good way, the very basic start, but we have a lot more to go because the challenges will be significant. And I believe I've got, because of my experience, when I was in corporate America, I actually built buildings. I understand the process of building big buildings. I understand the process of managing budgets, because that's what I did as a president of a manufacturing company. I did that on a daily basis. So I understand you cannot just do things without having a plan and a budget, and how do you work with people to create that that ability. So I'm looking forward to potentially providing those inputs based on my skills. Excuse me.
Thank you, Steve. We'll go to the next question. The question itself is pretty lengthy, so bear with me. And Steve, we're in the alternating format. You will respond to this question first. Spartanburg County has been recognized nationally for its economic development success in advanced manufacturing and logistics. Growth in millennial population, as well as interest from companies focused on innovation and life sciences, are encouraging signs of growth within our local economy. What are your thoughts about economic development and how you will work with the County Council to bring jobs to our citizens?
Well, interestingly enough, currently I'm chairman of the advisory council for this, what we all call is the George, which is the school, upstate School of Business and Economics. And part of that advisory group, we just did a survey to try to engage the advisors and all the different resources to help continue to interconnect the businesses that exist here today and the resources that are available out of the school, to be able to connect them closer together, be it faculty, students in internships and projects. And so I'm really excited about that. And that's just the start. And I'm also helping the dean work with a plan to hopefully develop a center for entrepreneurship that existed, but we really need to reinvigorate it. And the dean and the faculty are very excited about trying to do that. And that's on the side of entrepreneurship, very to the tune of Jessica's thought, which is small business, but that's where we're going to see. We're fortunate that we have a lot of the big industry and different businesses that are already here. But the next phase will be those entrepreneurs that support and provide the services to those industries, to those businesses, but also to the communities that are growing. And one of the things obviously I'm very engaged in as a commercial real estate associate is working with those companies to locate here. So I understand the process, bringing in the Spark Center, bringing in the folks at One Spartanburg, which we used to call the folks at the Economic Futures Group. So I've been very engaged in that process for many, many years, as early as when I was on the board of the Chamber of Commerce many years ago when I first came to Spartanburg. And so I've been here for 26 years, really focusing on all the elements, including the educational processes. And I'll talk about that at the end. But that's where I see the opportunities, because knowing the interconnectivity and the layers that support all that. And the team at One Spartanburg with Catherine has been phenomenal, as well as David. So I hope to bring my dimension, because I was a businessman in running a business, to be able to bring the inside game to what companies typically would need to sustain and grow.
Thank you, Steve. Jessica, I will read the lengthy question again. Spartanburg County has been recognized nationally for its economic development success in advanced manufacturing and logistics. Growth in millennial population, as well as interest from companies focused on innovation and life sciences, are encouraging signs of growth within our local economy. What are your thoughts about economic development, and how will you work with County Council to bring jobs to our citizens?
Thank you, Linda. As a member of the millennial population, I have a understanding of what we want and what we need. I think the biggest key for millennials is flexibility, right? We need to make sure that our companies are catering towards that. We need to make sure that we're creating atmospheres that are family friendly for young families. We need to make sure that we are putting resources to small businesses to encourage entrepreneurship. In the services industries, particularly in Spartanburg, is growing exponentially. So we need to make sure that we are supporting these small businesses, creating an atmosphere that encourages millennials to be here, and making sure that we're not creating an atmosphere that pushes them away or to a big city or to a neighboring community that might be more millennial friendly. That we want them here in Spartanburg.
Okay, thank you, Jessica. You'll notice that there are common themes in all these questions, and the next one is no different, but it's got a little different slant. And Jessica, you will be the initial responder to this question. When elected officials say that they are pro-business, what does that mean to you? And are you considered pro-business?
Okay, so being pro-business to me means that you're allowing the business to make their decisions for their business. We don't want to make regulations that put a ceiling on businesses or that make it more difficult for them to do their business. We want to make it easy for business to conduct their business and make sure that we're removing any red tape that may hinder more people from being entrepreneurs or getting into business. We want to make sure that we are supporting them in their decisions and giving them the resources and tools that they need to succeed. I am absolutely pro-business. I have a lot of small business. I'm a small business owner myself. I know exactly how hard it is to start a small business. And we need to make it easier for those in Spartanburg to conduct their business.
Thank you, Jessica. Steve, I will read the question again. When elected officials say that they are pro-business, what does that mean to you? And do you consider yourself pro-business?
To answer that the second question first, absolutely. I've been in that business environment for my whole life, other than the time I served in the Army, per se. I think the pro-business thought process is, how do we create the atmosphere that allow business to prosper? You know, when we talk about things like permitting, tax structures, tax incentives, the things that make Spartanburg competitive, but not necessarily Spartanburg competitive, but make the folks who come here and businesses that locate here to be prosperous and competitive in the markets they choose to participate in. So one of the things, as you can tell over my time, I've been doing this in many different facets all throughout my time here in Spartanburg, as well as my whole business career. And that is, what are the nuances that happen that create those problems for businesses to locate here or to grow? Is there issues of, for instance, as simple as, you know, one of the things we talk about is internships for students coming out of high school. One of the barriers for that sometimes is the companies can't do it because their insurance carriers preclude them from allowing people under a certain age. So how do we as a business, as a government entity, facilitate those issues to try to mitigate them so that companies can allow young individuals who are going into these particular careers to be getting that internship in those organizations and not be locked out because there's a legacy of an insurance program that precludes that. So I think as I speak to these thoughts, I think that you can tell that there's a lot of nuances and in the weeds issues that typically are faced by business. I've faced them. I understand them. And how do we break those barriers for those businesses? That's what I feel strongly about, is how to do those kinds of things. Because I understand.
Thank you, Steve. And back to you. Question number 4, Steve.
Yes, ma'am.
County Council is an important partner in the collaborative effort to help cities and towns prosper within the county. What are the specific needs of the municipalities within the district that you would serve?
Well, in the case of, in our particular case, in our district, it's really Duncan. I mean, obviously, yes, the city of Spartanburg as well. Don't get me wrong, because there's elements of the city of Spartanburg in the district as well as Duncan. Outskirts of Woodruff, but not truly in the Woodruff city environment. One of the things I think that is challenging is how interconnectivity between the council and the leadership of the municipalities as they look at roads, as they look at growing their footprint of their population, and how do you really, really work in those particular environments. I fortunately have had the luxury of working with a couple of the municipalities in my role in commercial real estate, so I get what their needs are. I understand that they are trying to do as much as, like Spartanburg, the city has done, and invigorating its downtown. And Spartanburg City has done a wonderful job of trying to, and continues to do that. I see that same issue happening in Duncan, and how do we help them really progress in that invigoration of their town to make it a quality of life. And as we taught, that there's a buzzword in the world, it's called hiptopia. How do you make those little towns that have a Starbucks, much like the big cities have a Starbucks? Well, I believe I've got those knowledge to help those communities, in fact, engage those kind of businesses to make those types of things happen within their own community, let alone the infrastructure issues that we've already talked about.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Jessica, question number 4 is, County Council is an important partner in the collaborative effort to help cities and towns prosper within the county. What are the needs of the municipality within the district that you would serve?
Absolutely. So one of the things that I agree with Steve, one of the things that I see is the development, right, on 290. One of the things that I'm concerned about is as we develop those commercial lands, and we build more commercial structures and we have development out that way, how are we going to service that area in fire particularly? I'm very concerned about how that additional square footage is kept safe and the people in that area are kept safe. I feel like if someone was harmed due to lack of resources, that I would feel personally responsible. So I want to make sure that we work with the municipalities around to make sure that that is covered. Obviously, the roads are bad. Infrastructure is bad. We all know the roads are bad. They've been bad for years and years. We need to make sure we have a strategic plan to get that fixed. We can no longer be behind the 8 ball with that. We need to get ahead. And then population growth. There's been neighborhood after neighborhood pop up. We just want to make sure that we're keeping up with that population growth and making sure that we keep our services in line with our population as to not downgrade the quality of our life here. But we need to do it in an effective, efficient manner so that we keep the most money in the pockets of our people. We want to make sure that we keep taxes low so that we encourage continued growth.
Okay, thank you. Thank you both for responding to that question. We're going to take a little turn, a little different topic. What role does tourism have in Spartanburg? And Jessica, we're going to get you started on this question. What role does tourism have in Spartanburg's economy? And would you support more investments in sports tourism facilities similar to Tiger River Park?
I think tourism in Spartanburg is very important. We are the intersection of 85 and 26. This is a great place for people to come and visit and play. And I think that it could definitely drive up tax revenue with hospitality taxes, which I collect and remit for my clients. I know how important it is to our budget. I also think it would be great to invest in sports arenas. Having sports tourism is great. I love sports. And it's also would be a twofold in that it would also help pull in the millennial population as well and allow us to develop a generation that could grow and make our community an epicenter for economic growth.
Okay, thank you, Jessica. Steve, what role does tourism have in Spartanburg's economy? And would you support more investments in sports tourism facilities similar to Tiger River Park?
The answer to the second question is absolutely. In industry and business, we think about how do you have success, and you find your niche. And in the world of business and in the world of tourism is what is the niche that Spartanburg has as it relates to tourism? we are certainly different than Charleston. We wouldn't even think about trying to emulate what Charleston does. But what we do have is we have an interesting dynamic as it relates to the niche of youth sports and school sports and university sports. We forget that we have, several secondary education facilities or programs here, the Woffords, the USC Upstates, and they bring in on any given day teams in their conferences to tournaments. Certainly the individual school districts have done a tremendous job with tournaments and events, whether it be the soccers and the basketballs and certainly the jamborees of football. So absolutely having a continued expansion of what was done out of Middle Tiger. The economic engine of Middle Tiger by itself has populated a number of hotels in the Duncan area. And that has been one of the cornerstones of the economic growth in the proper of Duncan, because the amount of room nights on any given year has been phenomenal, and therefore the hospitality tax, which allows us to reinvest again back into the tourism, if you will. And so I think tourism on the sports side is I think that's in its early stages. I mean, we're doing a phenomenal job, but how do we continue to expand that even further and do much more of a collaborative effort between all those entities that I just talked about to really, really hone in on that niche of sports tourism, because I think we've got a great opportunity. And one that we didn't talk about, which is the Bob Chapman. Even though it's not in the district, the amount of golfers, youth golfers that come in here every year to one of the most prestigious golf tournaments in the country for youth, we are in a very good position to take that platform and grow it across the community and as it relates to sports. I'm very excited about that, actually.
Thank you, Steve. Next question, we're going to stay with you, Steve. We've talked about or around the pandemic as well as small businesses. So this question has to do with both of those. The COVID-19 pandemic could force many small businesses to close, as well as many jobs in Spartanburg to be lost. What are some specific things the county council can do to assist in our county's economic recovery?
Well, I think Spartanburg has already tried, is doing a great job of trying to do that. They've sought out funding to be in a stopgap measure to help some of the small businesses. And obviously, when we think about the businesses that are most critically hurt, and Jessica obviously lives this every day in her world, is the small businesses that relate to hospitality, whether it be the restaurants, certainly hotels, but the restaurant industry, probably the greater percentage of the issue. And obviously restaurants are always going to be dynamic and always going to be changing, but that's where the pressure point is. If you think about the overall unemployment rate in Spartanburg as it is compared to other parts of the state and the country, we're relatively in better shape, albeit not perfect, but in better shape. So how I would seek the inference, and not the inference, but the inputs of those restaurateurs who say, how do we help you sustain over the term? And take their counsel in partnership with the One Spartanburg, as well as the County Foundation and other resources that we can lever, including the United Way, who can provide services and potentially from some of their service givers to those employees that are struggling through this window of time. It will pass, and we will be more successful for it, because when you are challenged, you figure out a better way to do things. And I know many of the restaurants have done that and are surviving, but there are going to be those that are not going to be here. And obviously the service industries that support those as well.
Thank you, Steve. Jessica, the question, COVID-19 pandemic could force many small businesses to close, as well as many jobs in Spartanburg to be lost. What are specific things that the county council can do to assist in the county's economic recovery?
Absolutely. I have been intimately involved in watching small businesses struggle. I actually lost one this year. That was a 30-year client. It was very heartbreaking. My clients are my family, and they've watched me grow. So it's crazy for them to come in here into my office and cry with me about how they've lost their business and they're going to have to close. Nobody wants to hear that kind of information. But some things that I think that we can do as a county to make sure that small businesses thrive, we cannot have a mask mandate. We've got to let businesses do their own, make their own decisions about what's right for them and their business, for their employees, and for their customers. I think that obviously masks save lives, but you need to not make it, let the business owner make the decision for themselves. We cannot have a shutdown order. My small businesses will not make it through another shutdown. I love the One Spartanburg Community Works grant. That was a great opportunity for small businesses to apply for financial aid. Like I said, I've applied for federal, state, and local grants, and I commend the chamber for doing that. I also think that one opportunity, if we had rainy day funds available, and I think that we should have rainy day funds for things like this in the future. It's definitely taught us that we need to prepare for contingencies. But if we have rainy day funds available, one option that I thought would be really cool is to have a business personal property tax credit for small businesses. That is one thing that I know hits a lot of people, and specifically is hitting them right now, that they've got to pay. And that could just be one small burden that could be lifted, even if it's not a whole lot. We could do something to let small businesses in Spartanburg know that we care and that we want them to be here and we want them to thrive.
Thank you, Jessica. The next question, you'll start us off, Jessica,
Okay.
About infrastructure. Infrastructure, roads, water, and sewer, all are important for continued growth. How do you view the importance of maintaining and improving infrastructure for the future growth?
Well, it's absolutely imperative. We've got to maintain our roads and water and sewer. Specifically, District 6 is over the next 10 years is going to see quite substantial development. And I want to make sure that we're staying ahead of that development and we're not lagging behind like we have been on the roads. I mean, roads are bad, but they've been bad since I've started driving. So I've been here my whole life, and I feel like we complain about roads every day. It's never ending complaint, right? So we need to make sure, we need to try to get ahead. It's going to be a daunting task, but we've got to make some leeway.
Thank you. Steve, infrastructure, roads, water, and sewer all are important, vital for continued growth. How do you view the importance of maintaining and improving infrastructure for future growth?
Well, I think you've heard me say that already, but I would like to make a few comments about the things that have already been done that put us in good stead. The Economic Futures Group really worked hard at thinking through this, identifying corridors where it's best suited for industrial growth and business growth. So with that, you obviously have to plan sewer, you have to plan water. We have one of the best watersheds in the country, and the amount of water that we have available to us for the future is phenomenal. People don't realize how intricate our watershed is in providing the fundamental issue of water for our lives. So I think we've got a very good foundation there. Obviously, the sewer is always going to be a dynamic situation, because one of the things that we face in expanding and growing is the issue of topography. And how do you put sewers in places where you have and are challenged because of the topography? Typically, sewers are basically gravity fed. When you have to build infrastructure that moves uphill, that's a different dynamic. And I know the partnership that we have with Spartanburg Sewer and CPW are instrumental in how we are going to continue to build those infrastructures as we go forward. We all know about the issue of the roads. That's obviously a game that we are starting to work very, very hard on. But the reality of it is we have some of the best road structure setups, because that's one of the reasons why, when you think about logistics and the hub that we have here, is that our structure of roads, albeit maybe not be in the best condition, are well positioned for the growth that we're going to see. Obviously, the challenge and the focus that we have is how do we continually improve them and maintain them? And those issues are with us. They are being addressed, albeit we have a lag of many, many years that we have to catch up from. And so that's really going to be the focus. That's the real compelling reason why I felt important to seek the opportunity to be a contributor to that solution, those solutions for the county and the community that we live in.
Thank you, Steve. Next question, Steve, we'll start off with you. Attracting and retaining qualified workers is the #1 issue facing the business community in our county. What specific things can the county do to assist with this crisis?
Well, one of the things that's happened, and I've been involved in it when I'm part of a group called the Regional Workforce Advisory Board, which was previously the Regional Education Center. And one of the things that was the impetus that was driven off the EEDA Act, and I won't get into that because it's very detailed, but the bottom line was to align curriculum for the jobs of today and the jobs of the future so that our students are aligned, what they study in school and learn is aligned with the ultimate needs of business and community as we go forward. And for instance, so there's curriculum alignment. To this day, we have a situation where there's 2 degrees now coming out of high school. There's a college ready and career ready. So how do we continue as a county to support the school districts in fostering that particular growth and what they call the CATE system? Again, it's an acronym, which is the Career Education and Technical Education System, and let alone the Spartanburg Community College. Because 60% of the new jobs are not going to be driven from a college degree, but from certificate and career education. And I think the county has done a great job of setting up resources at specifically SC Ready and the Spark Center, and providing those resources for the county to continually, when companies try to locate here, we have the resources to train them and then drive them to the typical or the individual institutions that provide those resources. Even as a business manager or leader over at the manufacturing company I partnered with Spartanburg Community College to train our employees, to give them the skills and retain them over the long term. Because by training them more, it allows them to get a greater wage. Their ability to make a higher income is driven off of the skills that they've developed. So I would be much more intimate with those processes, and I'd look forward to working with the county council to be able to continue to foster those kinds of things that we already do exist, and how we continually expand them.
Thank you, Steve. Jessica, attracting and retaining qualified workers is the #1 issue facing the business community. What specific things can the county do to assist with this crisis?
Absolutely. So I think this is threefold, right? It is education. We've got to train the people to make sure that they can do the jobs. But above that, we need to attract and retain, like you said. So we need to make sure that the students that we raise in Spartanburg want to stay in Spartanburg, that they see this as a community that they can grow in and that they can raise their family in and they can succeed in. So as a county, we need to make sure that we're doing things to make that happen for our kids. We need to make sure that they're educated. We need to make sure that we're utilizing technology in a way that allows them to find the jobs that they are trained for. And then we need to make sure that our county is attractive. They want to stay here. So that whether that means that we're investing in parks, whether that means that we're attracting businesses here that are young and whether that be sports related, or whether that be technology related, or whether that be jobs that foster creativity. We need to make sure that our kids have opportunities, not just the same manufacturing, big commercial jobs, but jobs that they feel purpose in, that they feel like they're contributing to the community, and that they are enjoying life here in Spartanburg, and then they don't want to go anywhere else. So they don't want to move to Greenville. They don't want to move to Columbia. They don't want to move to Charleston. They want to be right here in Spartanburg because this is the community where growth and success happens.
Thank you, Jessica. I think we've got time for one more question before closing remarks. And Jessica, we'll start with you. We touched on this a little earlier with a question, but efficient use of our infrastructure is important for the long-term growth. How do you view the area performance planning initiative being undertaken at the county level?
One more time.
Efficient use of our infrastructure is important for long-term growth. How do you view the area performance planning initiative being undertaken at the county level?
I'm not familiar with the area performance planning initiative, other than that I know that we are planning as a county is not necessarily zoned. It is there are areas for commercial and areas for residential, and as long as the infrastructure can sustain commercial development, then you're allowed to build commercially there. I am all about allowing property owners to do what they want to with their property. So I think that businesses need to have the freedom to do what they want to, where they want to.
Okay, thank you, Jessica. And Steve, efficient use of our infrastructure is important for long-term growth. How do you view the area performance planning initiative being undertaken at the county level?
I think it's phenomenal. Early on, several years ago, when Roger Nutt and the folks at council reached out to find some of the best practices, and so they were able to reach into Tennessee and found a very good formulary that was used as a foundation for the area performance planning process. And they reached out and went out to the community to actually have forums with the local property owners to show them what they thought they would try to achieve by setting up those processes that say, we want to use the infrastructure in a more efficient way so that we don't damage people's property rights and how they want to use their property, but at the same token, facilitate the growth that's going to be continuing to go along. So the whole concept, I think, is phenomenal. And I know it was set up for the southwestern quadrant of the county, of which we are part of. And I think it's starting to see the fruition of those foundations. Obviously, with any process, it can be improved upon. But at the end of the day, I think it's a wonderful foundation that the homeowners, the property owners, the business community, because you don't want to put a commercial entity in a rural community that disrupts the very essence of the rural community. So much so, you don't want to put a housing unit right on the thoroughfare where there's tremendous traffic. So you want to use the arterial roads and a lot of the other resources, and how you then develop those properties and what are the types of things that you want to have to make the quality of life and the aesthetics of that community continually be improved. So I'm excited about it. I look forward to, obviously I'm continuing to learn more about it. And obviously, like any plan, it has to be adapted and improved upon. So I am excited about what's already started. And I think it's a great foundation because it does provide the wherewithal to maintain and improve the infrastructure that we all know needs to be for a sustainable future for the community.
Thank you, Steve. Now at this time, we'll go to closing comments. You each will have 2 minutes to tell us what we don't already know or learn today about you as a District 6 runoff candidate. And when we decide, we drew prior to the event, and Jessica, you are going to lead us off with the closing comments, followed by Steve.
Okay. First of all, I want to say thank you to the Chamber for having this forum. I also want to thank the people of District 6 for those that came out on January 19th and voting me ahead on January 19th. I hope that everyone will come out, bring a friend or 10, and vote on February 2nd. I hope you'll vote for me. I am so ready to work for the district and be on county council and get some work done. I am a CPA, I'm a mother, I'm a conservative Republican, I'm a small business owner. I'm ready to put small businesses and jobs first. I'm ready to make sure that we are fiscally responsible as a county and make sure that we are building a better future for our kids. And like I said, I hope you'll vote for me on February 2nd. And thank you again, Linda, for doing this for us.
Thank you, Jessica. And we'll turn to you, Steve, for closing comments.
Well, thanks, Linda, and thanks to One Spartanburg and the team over there, because it's been a nice format. I really appreciate it. I think the thing that I think about most importantly is leadership. Early on in my career, going to the academy at West Point and in the Army is, one of the critical things about leadership is the ability to communicate. But the more important thing about communication is the ability to listen. And I think over the years, I have continued to hone my skills to continue to be a better listener. And so one of the things I hope to bring to the county council is the ability to listen to not only the citizens of the county so that we understand their needs, but also listen to the experts, because I wouldn't profess to know all the answers to every problem. But I also profess to say I've been in processes and in business leading teams to come up with the solutions, relying on the experts. And by listening to the experts and getting their guidance and formulating the solutions, whatever the issue may be, because we can't today know all the issues that are going to be faced by county council. We can anticipate several of them, no doubt, but there are going to be other issues that come across the bow. And how do you address them? How do you use the skills and the techniques to garner where's the best resource? Where do we get the what we call steal shamelessly, the best solution that may exist in another municipality or another part of the state or the South or wherever, and say, can we use that similar thing here and adapt it to our needs based on the feedback that we get from the citizens? So I think the thing that I think about is leadership and how you engage in leadership. And one of the critical things is communication and the ability to listen. So that's the reason why I'm seeking the opportunity to provide that guidance and leadership, to be a contributor, because the gentlemen and folks on the council, as well as the staff at the county, they do a pretty darn good job. It's really the challenges that we all see ahead of us and how we continue to, what we call OFIs, opportunities for improvement. How do we continue to improve? And that's where I think I can bring to the table those skills that I've learned over my business career and my leadership experiences that I've had, and look forward to lever all of those things I learned in many of the other locations within the community based on all the activities and organizations that I support, to know the issues of the community. So thank you very much to everybody, and look forward to the next phase of this process.
Thank you both. I think everyone that is watching would agree with me that we have two great candidates. We appreciate you participating and letting us get to know you a little bit better. Before I turn it back over to Alan, just let me encourage you to vote, vote, vote. And I hope everybody's watching that is able to vote goes and votes, and they let everyone else they know that they need to vote. Your voice needs to be heard. So thank you again. Thank you for the viewers. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Alan.
Thank you, Linda. I mentioned at the very beginning that Linda was a pro. She has walked us through a lot of issues: APP, growth, roads, water, sewer, tourism, economic development, small business support, workforce development. So Linda, thank you so much for navigating this forum. To the candidates, thank you for providing yourselves for service. I encounter candidates all the time in my role, and a lot of them talk about how hard it is to campaign. Well, it really gets hard if you win. It's a tremendous commitment of time, And I don't think we realize in Spartanburg how fortunate we are to have the elected officials that we do on county council right now. All you have to do is pick up a newspaper in another community and see the fraction that they have on council, or one municipality is suing another municipality, or so on and so forth. And really our secret sauce in Spartanburg is our ability to work together and our collaborative spirit. And so again, I appreciate Steve and Jessica and their willingness to participate in the process. Linda, thank you for your leadership on our board. And remember, February 2nd and then March 23rd. Please, please go and vote. Thank you all for watching. You can stay tuned with everything that's happening at One Spartanburg Inc. by going to onespartanburginc.com or following our Facebook page. Thank you very much.
Okay, we are no longer live on Facebook, but we still have folks in the room.